Alright folks, time for me to finally get around to talking about Shenmue 3. I had to wait a couple of days because I kind of had to collect my thoughts, because there's really not a whole lot to talk about because we don't really know anything about the game. Whether it's actually a formulated thing that's actually going to come to fruition or not, we're still kind of in the dark there. So yeah, I really can't just structurally talk about the game itself, but I can kind of give you my thoughts as a huge fan of the franchise, probably the last great Sega endeavor before things went downhill. Alright, so Shenmue 3, a game that we've literally been waiting for, 13, 14 years? I mean, I heard about the reveal secondhand. I wasn't actually watching the PlayStation conference. I was actually reading some clickbait article, and they had a little blurb on the side, and I clicked on it, and I was like, wait, Shenmue 3 is happening? And I read it, and then I immediately went to the YouTube, and I looked at the videos, and I spent the entire night basically looking at other fans' reaction videos. I mean, it's a huge moment. I mean, Shenmue fans are among the most die-hard fans of any video game property out there, and it's for a good reason. I mean, if you're a fan of something like Fallout or Mass Effect, Halo, all that stuff, I mean, you're going to get basically a new game coming out every 2 years, or maybe even an annual installment. I mean, you have to wait long before you get another fix. In the case of Shenmue, I mean, to give you an idea of how long we've been waiting for this game, the last time when Shenmue 2 was released, the Oakland Raiders were the #1 team in the AFC. Think about that. That's how long ago it's been since this game came out. They were a Super Bowl contender. So we might as well be going back to like the Paleolithic era because it's been that long. As far as the announcement, it's broken Kickstarter records, kind of goes without saying. They're trying to get $2 million by the end of the month. They got it in like 9 hours. It's probably going to top out like 5 million, so they're going to add more stuff. So obviously, not only is the fan support there, I mean, there is some huge fan support. I mean, the games themselves do not really sell all that well, but, putting up $2 million in 9 hours, I mean, there's a lot of people out there for that sum to actually happen. I mean, remember, because these were like in installments of like $1,000, $5,000. I mean, that's got to be a lot of people doing that. Or else some really, really rich fans of Shenmue are out there spamming it. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's a huge demand for the game. It's not just a fan base going on here. I mean, it's just a very popular property, and it's about time we got it. I mean, we've been waiting so long, and I myself, you got the cliffhanger that's been out there forever. So the game itself. Well, goodness. Sorry about that. I almost got hit by a dude while driving. That's why I was distracted. My apologies. Avoid dangers here in Atlanta. But yeah, going back to the game. It's very interesting because they're kind of going towards a more supernatural bent towards the end of Shenmue 2. So, I mean, definitely the possibilities of a lot of really cool experimental things. And there are so many reasons in the world to be excited about this game, which kind of leads me to kind of two things. Okay, number one, what do we need to expect? Will this game actually happen? Which in itself is a big question. I mean, they made the $2 million. Obviously can't make the Shenmue 3 on $2 million because the first game alone cost $70 million. Just for inflation, that's about $100 million. So, you got $2 million. By then, we're probably going to have like $4 million from Kickstarter. So, yeah, we only have, $96 million left to really adequately budget the game. So, that's going to be an issue. Obviously, Sony's going to come out and said, they're going to put some backing behind it. I think the entire Kickstarter thing itself was really more of a advertising and marketing employees kind of testing the waters for Sony, so they're going to invest as much money into the properties it probably needs. So, I mean, I think it's just great there because you obviously you have the fan appeal, you have people who want to play it. And I think that the amazing thing about this is obviously you have the hardcore Shenmue fans like me who played it way back in 2000 on the Dreamcast and specifically bought an Xbox just so I could play Shenmue 2. I didn't care about Halo or any of that other stuff. So yeah, obviously guys like me are going to be huge early adapters, are going to be part of this project. But I think really the thing that perhaps a lot of people really maybe are not talking about here is just how many fans who are post Sega as a hardware company have kind of come on board with the game. Because I know a lot of people who actually were like 3 when the Dreamcast first came out that absolutely love Shenmue. They love the property. I think it's one of the best games ever. And that's for good reasons, because it's something completely different. It's a game completely anathema to the entire video game industry. And basically what I mean by that is, traditionally, when you look at video games, I mean, going back to, Galaga, all the way up to Mass Effect and all the stuff we have nowadays, I mean, the general purpose of the game is to destroy. Now, I know we've got the multi-million-dollar budgets, and you got the Hollywood scripts, and you got the incredible graphics, and you got guys who make their money doing legitimate, like Hollywood productions or scripting games now. So, I mean, we're kind of crossing that chasm, becoming a more legitimate storytelling medium. But at the same time, even with these really impressive games like Fallout and Grand Theft Auto, I mean, yeah, you do have the sprawling world to get to explore. There's lots of stuff to interact with. But at the end of the day, you're still just killing stuff over and over again. I mean, that's pretty much the whole point. There's no way to advance. I mean, a game like Metal Gear Solid or Splinter Cell, Call of Duty, Gears of War, even like all the hack and slash games, Prince of Persia and God of War, it's all about maiming. It's about destroying. It's about taking away the lives of others so you can advance. And I mean, no matter how much fancy dressing you want to put on these games, that's pretty much all they are. They're basically murder simulators. I'm not saying that makes people become murderers. I'm just saying that's pretty much what they offer. That's a core component of the gameplay. That's their focus, is giving you some sort of vicarious thrill through, destruction and destroying. I mean, even going back to stuff like Rampage, isn't that innocuous? We're seeing that. Of course, not every game falls in that category. I mean, most sports games, most puzzle games, with the exception of Bomberman, obviously, kind of have that same motif. Do not have the same motif going on. But the thing about Shenmue is, what makes this game so different? And like I said, Shenmue, the franchise itself, it divides people. You either absolutely love it and think it's amazing, or you just think it's boring, don't know what the hype's about. I can understand why you hate the property. If you're not a fan of Shenmue, I mean, obviously it requires a little bit more intellect, it's slower pace. I mean, if you have ADD, if you have an itchy trigger finger, if all you care about is instant gratification through violence, you're not going to enjoy it. But I think for everybody else, people who love Shenmue, the thing they love about it is it's a game that's focused on life. It's one of the few rare life-affirming games out there, because that's the whole point. It's not about destroying. It's not about destruction. It's not about killing things. It's not about blowing up spaceships. It's about living a guy's life. Now, of course, he's out to avenge his father, but along the way, he's learning things about friendship and family and perseverance and making contacts. And Shenmue, I mean, really, even compared to like games like Grand Theft Auto 5, where you have these huge, sprawling worlds with thousands of non-playable characters, I mean, you still really don't get the sense you're actually in a living, breathing community. I mean, you get the fact that, you're a single character running around doing missions and doing stunts on motorcycles and blowing up buildings. I mean, you get the sense you're doing that in a giant sandbox, and all these other people here are just, random, pieces of programming that you can occasionally talk to. Obviously, games like Fable and, The Elder Scrolls, I mean, it's a little bit more nuanced, but at the end of the day, I mean, that's still pretty much it. You don't really get the feeling that they exist in their own plane, that they actually are in a real living, breathing social system. But in Shenmue, you got that. And you got that before George W. Bush was president. I mean, the game was so ahead of its time. I mean, really, that's a game. It wasn't really until you got into like the Xbox 360 before you actually saw a level of immersion that really rivaled that you saw in Shenmue 2. And like I said, to me, the appeal of the game is it gives you the opportunity to really experience a virtual life. I mean, the things you can do in Shenmue, I mean, were so incredibly nuanced and advanced for the time. Like, you can walk down the street and go play with a kitten, give it a name, go back to your house, pull some sardines, feed it to it. I mean, that's stuff you couldn't do in any other game. I mean, no other game had that sense of sensitivity, that sense of detail, that sense of richness and depth. And even, look at the other games in 2000 are drawing acclaim, stuff like, Majora's Mask and Metal Gear Solid and Half-Life. I mean, you're just pretty much doing the same thing you've always done. You swat things with swords, and you shoot things, and you move along, you look at the beautiful pictures, and you enjoy the crappy sci-fi channel level script, and move ahead. But with Shenmue, I mean, it's probably about as close as we're ever going to get to a real Akira Kurosawa film becoming a video game. I mean, that's our Akira. That's our Tokyo Story in video game form. I mean, you know, not saying it was boring, but you still had your excitement. You had the QuickTime events, you had the really awesome Virtua Fighter engine in there, you had the 70-man free fight, and you had so much stuff to do. You go to the arcade, you can go talk to people, you can talk to literally everybody in the game, you can go through the phone book and find people, you could develop relationships. The dialogue was great. That was really the first video game I ever played that actually made me feel a tinge of emotion. I actually related to the character, and I cared what happened to them. I mean, it wasn't like I was playing Dig Dug or Pac-Man, didn't care if I lived or died. I mean, you actually felt a connection. And I think that's something that's incredibly, incredibly rare in games. And I really can't think of any other examples off the top of my head, but I don't think any game out there, unless there have been some absolutely brilliant examples between now and 2007 and 2015, that really kind of matched that rivaled what Shenmue did in terms of making you feel with the character, making you experience real, true human emotion through a video game platform. So that's the appeal. That's what makes this game amazing, and it has a really, really great story. I mean, the voice acting is kind of goofy, but it kind of has the charm. I like that. And you just want to know what happens. You want to see what happens to Rio. Does he go on? Does he find Lan Di? I mean, will he give him mercy? Will he learn things about himself? Will he find out his father's backstory? I mean, it's just a good old-fashioned samurai story. A samurai story that just abruptly ended 14 years ago without any denouement until now. So yeah, obviously, we all want this. We want closure. And, you know, the thing is, I don't know if Yu Suzuki is still adhering to, like, how many chapters do you want to do? Like 14 Shenmue games before it was finished? I mean, I'm not really sure if we're going to be able to condense all of that game into one. But I don't know. I mean, technology is pretty advanced. I mean, look at the first Shenmue game. That was what, 3 discs on a Dreamcast, and then Shenmue 2, 1 disc on the Xbox. So I don't know. Maybe, you know, if we're using the Sega Dreamcast longevity content-wise, I mean, we might be able to fit all that in 1 disc. So I just want to know just how grand this is going to be. And like I said, the content of the game, we can't say anything because we don't know anything. I mean, you got Yu Suzuki saying stuff about, you know, branching paths and a new combat system, you know, which sounds cool, but I mean, they're just words. We don't know any idea what he's actually talking about. So that's kind of, you know, come down the line later. And the financing of the game, this game's going to be expensive. I mean, it's probably going to be as expensive as the Yakuza games. But I don't think the Yakuza games, even though they got like 3 or 4 sequels, really had the cult following Shenmue did. As far as what to expect, I mean, you know, the level of intimacy the Shenmue games gave you, and the level of immersion, just the scale, I mean, that's become a little bit more commonplace. So I'm pretty sure if they wanted to make the game, they could probably make it for less than $100 million contemporary money. I mean, if you get the really solid guys out there, you get a good crew, you get some good engineers, and I think it's probably what's going to end up happening. You're going to put all the money up front, the development on end, probably on Yu Suzuki and his own personal finances and Sega. And then, you know, getting the engineers and actually making sure you kind of get it out in time and doing the back end stuff. That's where Sony will come in. So I think it's probably going to be like a half and half deal, where you got Sega putting up probably like 40 million, and then Sony putting up to 40 million. They want it out December 2017. I'm not even sure probably if we're going to be in another console cycle, are we? By then. So is this thing even come out on PlayStation 4? We don't know. Will it go multi-platform to cover some of the costs? Well, if Sony's putting the money down, no, that's not going to happen. But yeah, there's so many questions we don't know. I mean, I can sit here and kind of start second guessing whether the game will come to fruition even with the Kickstarter money, because so much is uncertain at the moment. We don't really have anything really specifically locked down in terms of financing. The time frame, the window for the game's going to come out, we don't know. I mean, we got the vague December 2017 thing, or December 2016, whenever. A year from now, 2 years from now, whatever. I mean, it's all been said, but we haven't really seen, you know, the actual timeline, the production notes come along and say it's going to be out when they say it's going to be out. So that's still up in the air. But yeah, to move beyond all that, just kind of get behind just the trifles about worrying about when the game's going to come out, whether the funding's going to be there, whether there's going to be enough money to kind of really fulfill Yu Suzuki's vision. You know what? That's all on the side, because what really matters here is we've been clamoring for this game. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I got a little teary-eyed when the announcement was made. You've seen the videos of the guys freaking out. If I would have watched this live, I would have been jumping up and down like an orangutan the news, because it was just such a relief. But finally, after waiting so long, after being teased and having the dream denied over and over again, it finally happens. The game is announced. That they at least want to move forward with it. They might have the Sony backing. They've taken this huge, gargantuan step, the first major revelatory step towards Shenmue 3 we've had in a decade and a half. How can I complain about that? I mean, I'm ecstatic. My inner Sega fanboy is jumping for joy. You know what? Even if I don't actually own the next generation console, I'm going to buy a copy of this game just to put the money in Sega's pocket. And you know what? I hope, and I think actually this time around, it's going to be a success. It's going to be a success because there's so much hype behind it. And not just undeserved hype. It's because, this game came out 15 years ago. We're still talking about it. We're still wanting a sequel. I mean, how many games from the year 2000 are still, having people go crazy saying, oh, we need an update. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So I think it's going to be a big success. It's going to make a lot of money. I mean, it's not going to be like a Call of Duty Grand Theft Auto success, but it's going to sell. It's going to move a lot of units, and it's probably going to be maybe an extended franchise. We might get a Shenmue 4 and a Shenmue 5. And in fact, the games might actually end up becoming so popular they start pooping them out every 2 years, and they become as formulaic and predictable as Madden and Gears of War and Halo and all that other stuff. So maybe eventually, maybe the story will be 10 years from now, we'll be sick and tired of Shenmue. We'll get tired of playing Shenmue 6. So who knows? Let's just be thankful we're getting what we're getting. I mean, the skies, the gray clouds have disappeared, the sun's shining, and you know what? Count me among the thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people across the globe who cannot wait to finally go back out there and find those sailors.